Welcome back to the Business of Becoming. I'm your host, Steffany. And today we're going to talk about how I unplug, but I want to also stress why unplugging and getting rest is so important to the entrepreneur, to the mom, or to the leader in you, because so much of your role requires you to see the big picture. So, again, today we're going to talk about how I unplug and how I do so without feeling guilty about it, because we're going to attack that little sucker that's called guilt today. Rest is what I would call like a visionary tool. I don't see it as a waste of time. I did fall under that, spectrum of being extremely guilty and not being able to unplug when I would go on quote unquote vacations, because I was still consumed with what was going on in the office. They need me. They need me. I need to be there, or I need to answer this call, or I need to be a part of that meeting. And it was so consuming that I never got the chance to really like rest wholly, like and fully be present in being completely disconnected. And one of the cool things that I've realized, because there's some people that I've had mentors, I've had coaches, and they've told me their greatest ideas and all this other, innovative stuff has happened to them when they've been on vacation. I can't personally say that that's happened to me. I know I've had, some ideas here and there for sure. And I'm hoping that eventually that will happen. Like I would have like this, $1 billion idea while I'm in Cabo or something. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that rest and being able to completely disconnect has reminded me of the big picture. And that is super important because it has allowed me to come back from vacation, from resetting, and be able to remind my team, because they are in the day to day, right? They're in the day to day of the constant emails and the constant this and the same client that they have to call back. And it helps me remind them, okay, I know that we're getting one foot in front of the other, but here's the big picture, and this is why we're doing that. This is why we're being annoying. This is why we're being persistent. This is why we got to do what we're doing right now, because this is the big picture. So let's be innovative. Let's sit down. Let's do a meeting. Let's do a rally. And that is your job as the entrepreneur. That is your job as the leader. And the same goes for my kids. They're in school or they're in this and they have their day to day. And when mommy gets a chance to rest and reset, I come back and I remind them, like, hey, we're going to have a vacation. I'm taking my kids to Disney on Friday. Why do I get to do that? Because you know what? Mommy works her butt off. And now they're going to see those fruits of like, it is important to rest. It is important to take time for your family. But that's what I'm doing. I'm working my behind off right now, and I'm missing some moments with my children because I want to make sure that in those very pivotal middle school or high school crucial years that I am completely 100% available to be present for them. So that's my end game. That's my big picture for my future and for my kids, my family, right? I want to be able to just work whenever I want to in the next couple of years, not work because I have to, and have businesses, that are working for me rather than me slaving for them. But I'm working my behind off to get that to happen. And I've sacrificed a few things in my child's youth, but I know that there's a big picture. That's why it keeps me going. That's why I don't feel guilty when I need to step back and be a parent, or I need to step back and rest, or I need to step back and actually be productive and start working. You have to have those big pictures very outlined for yourself. If not, you will fall in that trap of like, oh my God, I'm not being a good enough mom today. Or, oh my goodness, I'm not being a good enough boss today. Or I'm not being a good enough entrepreneur today. Big picture. What's the big picture? Okay, how are you going to do that today? Because sometimes it is spending time with your children. It just is. Because it fuels your soul. And if you feel good and your soul feels good, you're going to lead from that high pinnacle moment rather than coming in and leading from being sorrowed and depressed. Your team will feel it. Your clients will feel it when you're trying to sell them something and you're just like all down and beaten up in the dirt. Don't do that. Not for you, not for them, and definitely not for your future. don't let busyness trap you in your current situation right now. Make sure that when you take that time to rest and reset and unplug, that you understand that that is so that you can remind yourself of your big picture. Rest is also a very big priority, and it should be a very big priority in your life. Because remember, I'm going to say this again, I'm going to sound like a damn broken record. You hold the vision for what your team has to achieve, what your business has to achieve, what your family has to achieve. And you have to remind yourself of those moments. And I'll give you a great example. Last weekend, I took a moment to rest. I didn't have the kids that weekend. And I had booked a trip months ago. I booked a trip to go to upstate New York. And totally forgot about this trip completely because it's been like nonstop. And I ended up, my friend and I, she called me. She's like, oh, we have that trip coming up. Like, did you forget? And I was like, I totally forgot. And this trip was just for us to go reset, go hiking and just really just disconnect. And it came in such a clutch time. So I feel like, I think the couple months ago me that was just doing this trip out of like random, one of those nights where you're just like, yeah, New York sounds like a great idea, for sure. Thank that version of me. But anyways, I ended up going on this trip. It was completely, in my opinion, was last minute because it wasn't in my peripheral vision even. So where am I going with this? I love mountains. And there's something about me that you guys want to know. I love mountains. For whatever reason, every time that I'm in Colorado or that I see, or I'm in the Alps, which is not that often, but hopefully one day I can be there all the time. But I see mountains, it feels like I feel content. Like I genuinely feel joy. And I have kids, don't get me wrong. I look at them, they make me happy, all that stuff, but they also piss me off. And mountains is just weird. Ever since I was young, I just remember the first time I actually saw mountains, I was 17, 18 years old. I went to Colorado and I was just like, I was in awe that exists. And that, mind you, if you just got here, I'm from Florida. The mountain that we have is Tropical Park or the Garbage Mountain. That's it. And I just remember seeing these mountains and it was just this feeling of like, man, I want this. Like I want to either visit here, I want to either like live here, or I don't know, like I just want to be around this as much as I can, right? And that was always, since I was 18, that's what I wanted. I wanted to do that. I wanted to be there. And a couple years ago, I was able to achieve that where I lived in, Colorado for a little bit. And obviously I've been able to travel a lot, thankfully, because of, my job and whatnot. So I'm rambling, but it's getting to a point because this weekend, I really wasn't expecting. I was just going on this trip just because I had planned it already, and I was just like, oh, whatever. It was not even like a rest thing. It was just like, oh, I have to do it. And when I was there, we were hiking up this mountain, and I just, like, you see the leaves are changing, it's becoming fall. And I was so happy. And I went back and literally reminded me of that one time when I was 18 years old, that I was like, man, I want to have this more frequently. Like, this is what I want to bring my kids to. I want them to experience this. I want them to experience this joy. Like, it reminded me of my vision for my kid and my kids. It reminded me of my vision for them because this is experiences I didn't get to have when we were younger because we were broke. So we couldn't travel like that. And I say all of this because it really just, I remember we were driving and I was just like, man, like, this is so beautiful. This is what I want my kids to experience. And again, why do I say that? Because sometimes those, unexpected moments or whatnot are those moments where you just detach yourself completely and really be present in that moment and look at the beauty that God has made. You're just like, wow, like this is real. So again, what real rest looks like to you. You have to find out what that is, right? But for me, it was that. It was being able to just disassociate and go on this trip and just be like, oh, man, like, now I remember this is what I want for my kids. This is what I want for my life and my future. And also, dude, like, I'm a 31-year-old woman. I need to remind myself that it's okay to have those moments to just go and have fun and hike and feel like that youth, because these knees, they're not always going to be ready. They're not always going to be super healthy. And I know it sounds funny, but it's the truth. Like, that's how I've learned to unplug. I've learned to just take these moments and say, you know, my body is this way right now, and it might not be this way forever. And take those opportunities to really just unplug and say, okay. And again, it doesn't have to be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 vacations. It could be a bunch of other stuff, which we'll get into, on how to build, rest into your day to day. But for me, those were big objectives for me. Those were things that I really wanted to achieve. And those are ways that I completely disconnect. So yeah, I don't know who's listening to me right now, but book that trip, okay? Book it. Put it on the credit card. Get some points while you're at it. And find out, if you haven't already, if you don't have the vision of what, your future looks like, maybe book that trip and just use that trip to do that. Book that trip to remind yourself or to find out what that vision looks like, because you need it. If not, you're leading people nowhere, because there's no end game. There's no future. There's no goal. These things all have to remind you what's for you and what isn't for you at all. So sometimes it's even great for your relationships. If you guys are dating, sometimes, you know what? Boop, take a break. Stop texting that man or woman. Take a rest. Unplug for a second and digress and find out your pros and your cons and say, is this for me or is this not for me? Does this align with my future vision, my future goals, or does it not? And then you also get a trip out of it. So it works out. All right. So outside of planning these extravagant vacations, which I still encourage you to at least get out of your city sometimes, because it's important. It's so important. But we're going to talk about practical ways to build in rest in your day. Okay. I mentioned some already. Where sometimes it's just you literally putting your phone on Do Not Disturb for the last hour. I don't know what industry you're in, but I guarantee you at 10 o'clock or at 9 o'clock at night, you might not have a client really, really urgently blow you up, Sometimes it happens to me that I've had those moments, but you pick your days, right? Or you find out at least 1 or 2 days out of the week. You don't have to do this every week, every day religiously. You start small, baby steps, Put your phone on Do Not Disturb. Be present, Or there's some people that at the dinner table, there's no phones. My life, I didn't grow up that way. We didn't grow up having dinner at a dinner table. Something that I want for my kids for sure. But right now our life is pretty fast and it's pretty intense. But some people, hey, if you get a chance to do that with your children, do it. Do it. Don't let your kids see you on TikTok or on Instagram. Like, be intentional. Ask them about their day. That's resetting. That's unplugging. If you live by your calendar like I do, I literally block it out. I literally have blocks where I put, like, SV, do not disturb, And those either days I'm praying. Those are days where I have just personal time with my kids. Those are days where, I don't know, there's something personal that I have to do, or I have therapy. There's also, again, there's so many different things that you can do to really prioritize your unplugging. This is another personal story, fun thing. So I go to therapy. I encourage it to everybody. And my therapist made me realize something so key and so clutch. So he goes and asks me, who are you? And my response was I don't know, that's why I'm here. I'm trying to find out who the hell I am at this moment, a divorcee, 31-year-old, girl. But he really asked me that question. He goes, no, I'm serious, Steph. Who are you? And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I'm a mom. I'm a businesswoman. And I'm a daughter. I don't know, I have family. That's who I am, right? And he's like, no. He's like, those are things that you, those are titles. That's what he told me. He's like, those are titles that you hold, but that doesn't necessarily signify who you are. And I was like, I don't know how to answer that question, because I was like, I'm not a wife anymore. So I don't know. That's like completely out of the picture. So now all I am is, a mom, a businesswoman, someone who has faith, and like family. And I don't want to say that I was going through like an identity crisis, but I definitely was just like unhappy. I was unhappy because I was in a rut of like, I gotta be a mom, and like packing lunches. The same thing I was saying, packing lunches, doing this, and then working, and blah blah blah. And I hadn't really found those moments to unplug without feeling guilty, because I was just trying to stay busy, so I didn't feel anything. And he told me something that was so cool. He's like, okay, it's like, I want you to go back to when you were 18 and tell me who you were at 18. And I was like, well, I mean, I was a kid, but I was just striving, man. I was hungry for work. I was like happy. I was a hustler. And he's like, okay, what were the things that made you happy? And I just remember when I was young, I loved to play basketball. That was my thing. I loved to play basketball. I felt like, time stopped in that moment. And I was able to just like have fun, feel like I was a kid again. And why do I say all of this? Because I learned how to practically build that moment to unplug in my day to day. I literally bought a basketball court and like the rim, whatever, the hoop. I bought the hoop and I put it out, and at least once or twice a week, me and some of the staff here, some of the guys, we start shooting hoops outside and we play basketball. And it's like between 5:30 to 6:30 or 7. And man, I feel so like reset. Like I feel so unplugged. Not everybody does that, I get it. But I unplug so quickly. Like it's instant. And I feel amazing after. I feel like I did something that I loved. I also feel like I lost a little bit of weight while doing it. And it just makes me whole and happy. Right? So it's literally on the calendar. It's called, PCS B-ball. Like, do not miss. This is for real. Again, I'm telling you my practical things on what I do. And it might be something that you can adapt or you can apply it, or it could just be something that would encourage you to do something, even with your staff, to have them help you unplug. Find something that you all guys like to do, or I don't know. But it definitely helped me. And it's a way that I've practically built that into my life and my routine. So to wrap this up, rest isn't you pressing pause. It's the fuel for your part of your becoming. It's the fuel for what it is you're leading people to, where you're leading them to. It's not a pause. Being able to unplug is fuel. You're re-energizing yourself. You're re-reminding yourself. You're bringing yourself to that place of like, this is why I'm doing these things. Okay. We've talked about false rest versus real rest. We've talked about why it matters to rest as a leader, as a mom, as an entrepreneur. We've talked about the guilt factor. And, we've talked about how to build rest into your day to day. So I encourage you that if you find yourself just being so busy and starting to hate what you do, or starting to, become a person that you don't recognize anymore, and not really finding the joy in what you're doing, unplug for a second. Remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing, what the big picture is for your family, for yourself, and for whoever you're leading, whether you're a manager, whether you're an entrepreneur, whatever it is. Find out what that big picture is and what it looks like for you, because it is so important. Like, as a mom, I want my kids to experience things I have never experienced, or things that I have that I know are so wholesome and vital to their life. And maybe I'm speaking to some of you guys. And I live in a big city. I live in Miami, and it's tough to have them acquaint with nature over here. So those are my big pictures. This is why I work my butt off. And as a leader, I want to bring people to my big vision in my company, which is this is bigger than us. That everything we do is bigger than us, and everything that we have is, we build back stronger communities. That's what we do. And if you don't know what I do by now, I help people who have damages to their house or go through natural disasters, and I fight with the insurance companies to make sure that they're made whole again. So again, I say all of this because I need to unplug to remind myself that I'm a 31-year-old that loves life, loves the life that I have, even with all the challenges that it's given me. But I love it. I have 2 babies that I'm leading. I have a whole company that I lead, and several other side things that I do that I'm leading. And they all have a way bigger picture than me just putting one foot in front of the other. No, I won't accept that for myself, and you shouldn't accept that for yourself either. Always look at the big picture, give yourself grace, and love every moment that you're doing it, because I promise you, joy is contagious. Just as much as misery loves company, joy is contagious. So, hope this made sense. Like and subscribe. I'd love to hear you guys tell me some of your challenges and maybe how you guys unplug, how you guys rest without feeling guilty about it. And we'll go from there. I'll see you guys in the next one.